The PLO.
The hell is that?
The Premier Lacrosse League.
I came in with my ex like Selena, the flex, bumping Justin Bieber, the fever, it left, she know what she need, or she blessed, giving you my best, yeah, I got my heart on my sleeve with a knife in my back, what's with that, 21, I love him, they're my brother, that's my stack, Metro made the beat, so you know that it's gon' slap, she on my nerves. She think that I need her, kick her to the curb. All I know is you could've had the world, yeah, you were my world.
Got these girls on my neck, got these girls on my check. Like Selena, baby, on my cheating, baby, yeah. She thinking a Lambo for a drive, it's in my fancy door. Then she way out the store.
Oh, hell yeah, boys. Back like we never left. Love to see it. Net Profits is back. And we got a new face joining us here. We got Brenny Locks and we got the same last name. Are you guys brothers? We got Lloyd Locks with us as well. Appreciate it. Appreciate you tuning in. And I'm hyped to be here. Newbie Talks, your host, as per usual. Before we get into anything, Lloyd, I want to let you know, my man BL, this is a safe space. We know that your first experience betting the PLL may have not been the best. You just dropped the video that people can see over at SoBet, but fucking A, man. We live to bet another day, brother. How we doing?
I know 100%, man. And whenever you're going into a new sport, you kind of got to figure out what's going on. And then, so I'm sitting here, I'm like, well, it's halftime. I'm like, well, let's get a play out.
Something.
And so 110%, man. I'm like, all right. So I'm watching the first half. I'm like, bro. I'm like 110% we're going with the chaos here. And then whip snakes out of nowhere, man. And my heart absolutely sank when that goal went in with eight seconds left. And then we didn't even get a shot off. We couldn't win a face off. Unbelievable experience. But here we go, PLL.
Absolutely, baby. And we're going to be recapping a little bit of what happened last week. Yeah, that brutal beat for our guys, 17-16, the final game of the weekend. All the scoring apparently was just saved for Sunday. I mean, those games fucking flew over the total. So Bryce, how are you? Or Brenny, how are you doing, brother? It's great to have you back, man. How's it been?
Yeah, it's great to be back. We talked
off.
about last week the PLL just kicking my butt. And I've been taking a lot of favorites. I was on the Atlas Future before the year as the #1 favorite to win it all. And Lloyd comes. His first pick is the Chaos and loses. I finally had a winner in the Whip Snakes. Shout out to Will Manny with the game winner. That was disgusting with 8 seconds left. So, Lloyd, hopefully this is just temporary. Just 0 for 1 in your first week. But I really hope that I can put my foot on the gas and get hot now because I needed that one to go through the net.
And one man's bad beat is another man's huge win is what we've learned.
That's right, man. That's right.
Just from that right out of the gate. Yeah, dude, well, as far as like this past weekend went, let's start too because we actually haven't done a show in 2 weeks. And Lloyd, before we hopped on here, you were mentioning that you were at the All-Star game, which was just pure fucking electricity. Dude, the fact that this dude was able to just hum it, Jared Newman, 121, setting a new world record on fire. So I guess you have 2 weeks of PLL experience, at least here live. So what's just been your thoughts? I mean, comparatively to the All-Star game, a completely different beast. What we see week out, but how's it been over the last 2 weeks? Just diving in.
Well, I mean, it's been absolutely amazing, and we we went to the All-Star game and. Went to the All-Star game. It was in Louisville, so drove down there not too far from the house, about only an hour, and we got some tickets, man. We went down, got some food, got some merch, man, walked around. The atmosphere was unbelievable, how they've marketed this and kind of, spent their money well, and especially for a lot of the younger generation, it seems like they're kind of migrating towards the PLL, which is really awesome to see because, when we were kids, all we had was, we really just had football and basketball. That's all I really played. That's all I wanted to play. Because that's what I watched, and so now we got kind of a new sport on the rise. That's kind of been on the rise for a year, man. I mean, like when I was in high school, I had a lot of buddies play it. I went to a high school, I went to Moeller High School. We won the state championship in lacrosse my senior year. So it's been really cool to kind of see it gradually get bigger over the years, and just the PLL All-Star game is kind of one more step in the right direction of seeing how the fruition that this thing can really have.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. And that is the lifeblood. You know what I mean? Bringing up the next generation in the PLL, definitely doing their best at doing that. So I love to hear it that you were out there, that you were having a good time, brother. And we love to see it. So guys, before we start looking towards this week, hopefully get some people, some winners, some early looks. I will say I never try and bet this shit until after I see the injury report come out. And that usually is like Wednesday night, Thursday. I feel like this sport more than any, with how small the rosters are, you got to know who's in and who's out, or you sell the bag before the games even start.
No doubt.
So we will give you a little bit of actionable info here, but definitely something to wait on. But Brenny, I thought for sure Rossi was going to be here victory lapping, because we were like, are you going to bail on the Atlas? Like, you have to be sick of the Atlas just absolutely sucking. They hadn't covered a game yet. They were the only team in the PLL heading into week 6 that hadn't covered a spread, and they finally get it done against the last place team in the Chrome. So, Brenny, are the Atlas back? I know that you and Rossi were riding together. One win against a bad team, is that enough to get them back? Because they're playing the best team in the league this week.
The Atlas have never been more back. And you heard it here first. This is a clip that we're going to look back in September, come postseason time, and we're going to know that the PLL screwed up with this playoff format, because allowing the Atlas to dance around a 2-4 start through 6 weeks. They had that break for the World Games. This team, they beat the last place Chrome. So everyone's like, oh, so what? You know, Chrome's the laughing stock of the PLL right now. However, let's look at the numbers, guys. PLL.com, they still have the Atlas as the 3rd or 4th ranked team to make the semifinals. This is a 2-4 team, guys. The numbers love them. I think all they need to do is at least rip off 2-3 in a row, and they're right back in it. However, they do have a very tough matchup coming up this weekend.
Dude, even the rest of their schedule. So what? They get the win against the Chrome. Okay, they get their cover. Great. But now in Homewood this weekend for Hall of Fame weekend, they're going to be live on ABC again, which has not been very good for the Atlas. They're taking on Archers this week. Then they go to Denver. In Denver, they have to play the Water Dogs. Following week, they have to play the Cannons, who we thought were dog shit, and now they're apparently the best team in the league. They're on a 5-game or a 4-game winning streak. And then the Atlas end the season against a team that I don't know what the hell is going on, and that's it, the Redwoods. So that is the thing, though. Like to your point, Brenny, there is 7 out of the 8 teams that end up making the playoffs. So, we talked a couple of weeks ago who's going to be in, who's going to be out. Atlas aren't going to be out of the playoffs. And if they get in, you really think back more than ever, or 1 week after the Archers completely roll them, are you going to be like, fuck, we're screwed again?
No.
Yeah.
I think that the Archers game, obviously the Archers are the best team in the PLL right now. I'm kind of conflicting because, dude, did anyone see that Connor Fields, Mac O'Keefe behind the back that they had?
Unreal.
Disgusting.
They're a walking highlight reel, dude. That's what the Archers are. All they do is highlight reel goals. That's it.
And I think that this weekend is going to be a tough game. And what I meant by back more than ever was this team just getting 2 wins to the point where, like, they have now separated themselves from that last place spot. As an Atlas backer, as an Atlas future since 3 weeks before the season even started, I still think that this team, they had all the talent that they had before the year. And I think that they have a push. Might not be against the best team in the PLL this coming weekend, but this team's going to make the playoffs, and I think it's going to be a team that peaks at the right time.
Lloyd, I know you had the brutal beat this past weekend, but I don't know if you checked out any of the other games. Like, if you were watching them, like, do you really look at Archers like the class, or do you just think, hey, like, it's not like they rolled the Water Dogs, you know what I mean? Like, they had to come back
really
from
game,
trailing. Yeah. It was a 1-goal game. They scored about 1 billion goals. I think they just scored again. So I know that everybody's like gassing up the Archers, but I don't know if the gap between them and the second best, third best team is really all that big. So, I mean, just from watching this past weekend, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, well, it seemed like the game with the Water Dogs was kind of weird because it was, I
True.
mean, it was kind of slow paced for a little bit, and then it
And
kind of
just
exploded, and then just
yeah.
kind of like that, there was a lot of goals scored, and it was kind of a back and forth thing. And the Archers, I was very shocked with kind of how much that they turned the ball over. I kind of thought with watching them, kind of knowing that they were the number one team, kind of coming into that game, and the Water Dogs have kind of had their struggles. For the Water Dogs to kind of, I mean, have more shots on goal, less turnovers, and obviously the Archers kind of dominated the faceoffs, which is kind of, I mean, it led to a couple 2-point goals, and that's kind of where they got a lot of their action. But I mean, they're kind of the main team, I would say, almost besides. I mean, the Atlas have looked really good, and then what's the other really good team? There's one more really good team I know that's out there. The Water Dogs too. No, the Cannons. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. So them and the Cannons. I mean, them two teams kind of seem like going into the playoffs. They're gonna have they should be peaking at the right time.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And still, with a couple of weeks here left to go, that those top teams, they're going to be seeing each other a little bit here. Like Archers are playing Atlas the next week. Archers get a free one against Chrome. So here's my thought is Archers then they play Whip Snakes. Archers then play Water Dogs. So Archers don't have to play the Cannons again. So that's going to be one that we're definitely eyeing for playoffs. But I know that we're going to make picks on all these games, but I don't know. Like this could be a really nice sell high spot to bet against the Archers this week. And because of how good they've looked, you're getting to see the Atlas at +1.5. You only have to lay -110 to bet that. I don't know. That's something that just kind of piques my interest because when you look at the Atlas, they have been horrible as a favorite. But as far as an underdog, you haven't seen him as an underdog too much. And against the spread as a dog, they're now, what would it be, 5-2 against the spread. So I only have to lay -110 on the Atlas this week. Like if the Atlas truly are back, I don't know if I'm going to place on them to the money line, but I could see this being a tight game, Atlas and Archers. Certainly, game of the weekend quality coming up with what we've seen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so that's something that we'll definitely track. Before we get into to any of the games here coming up this weekend, and I'll run down the full board. I have some trends to drop in here as well. We've been making money line picks here on the show, but since these spreads are all 1.5 and pretty tight, really the only two that are crazy juiced are the Redwoods and the Water Dogs game. Those games both going on Sunday. So we can throw in ATS picks. We can talk a little totals here as well. But before we get into this week, I think Brenny, you wanted to just get into how this like playoff format, breaks out and how it kind of shakes out, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the interesting part of sports that have massive playoff pools in relation to the amount of teams in the league, like over 85%. I mean, it's one team that's not making the playoffs in the Premier Lacrosse League. It comes down to pretty much everyone's making the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So you have to find the teams in a couple months from now that are a couple weeks from now that are hitting their stride at the right time, because the Archers are currently in their stride. They're Water Dogs every single week this year. They have not failed to put up double-digit goals. Yep. Those two teams can score. But what happens when a team like you saw the Whip Snakes last week? They played with a backup goalie and still edged out a very important win that they needed over a Chaos team that was playing pretty good lacrosse. And they scored a lot of goals by doing it. So they stepped up on the offensive end when they were lacking defensively. Who's going to be that team that hits it at the right time? And then who's going to be these top teams that we're talking about? Are the Archers going to have an injury? Are the Archers going to slow down? I mean, obviously, we know this sport. I would even, if we want to talk football that's coming up in a couple of weeks, I would say that I was a lacrosse goalie in high school. I was an All-American. Goalies get hot and cold, guys.
Good job to slide that in there.
If you get a hot goalie, then there's nothing that can stop you come the postseason. On the other hand, one of these goalies slow down, it's a PLL. Giving up 15 to 20 goals is extremely doable.
Yeah, I also like that that was well done out of him, Lloyd. Just mention the All-American right there. Just slide it in. It didn't even come across as braggadocious. It came across as just a humble gentleman.
Yeah, just an All-American type guy. So that's who Brenny is, man. It's an All-American type guy. Everything he does, All-American type.
In relation to trying to prove to the audience that I know that a goalie can get hot and cold. We see in the NFL, kickers get hot and cold, quarterbacks
Yeah.
get hot and cold.
For
Oh,
sure.
no,
100%,
I absolutely
100%.
love it. Any time that I could work in that I was an all-state center and defensive end. Oh, whoops, did I just mention that? I'm sorry. It just completely slipped
Right.
out
That's
there.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, just completely slipped out there.
I see
But
Bryce in
no.
the chat.
Yeah, it felt like second nature. Just slid it right in there. Use protection, folks. All right, boys, let's get into this Baltimore weekend here, guys. Homewood Field, one of the most historic locations that is in, all of lacrosse. You think about Hopkins, they really helped put lacrosse on the map. So they're going to be back. Hall of Fame, announcements. That's all going to be good and well. But we're worried about how we can make money this
That's
weekend.
right.
And it's a hell of a slate, guys. So we got Archers taking on Atlas. That game's going to be nationally televised on ABC. The appetizer for the Whip Snakes and Chrome, that one's going to be on ESPN Plus. And then you got Redwoods and Chaos. That's a great, historic matchup going back. A nice rivalry between those two. I'll have some numbers on you for that. That one also going to be on ABC. And then you got the Water Dogs and Cannon. So really bookmarked in between teams that are trying to figure out what's going on is all four of the top teams facing off this week. So I think this could be one of those weeks where we see a lot of 1-goal games, which is why I know that a lot of them are heavily juiced. But I'm going to be looking at taking 1.5s this week, guys. I don't know if I'm going to blindly take them across the board, but Archers, 1.5-point favorites against Atlas. They're minus 166 on the money line. Your take back on Atlas is 130. Whip Snakes are minus 1.5 against Chrome. That's 115 both ways. House loves getting paid there. They're minus 160 on the money line, 124 your take back. So, Brenny, I'll start with you on those two games. Total in the first one is 25.5. The total in the second is 23.5. I know it's Tuesday. We haven't seen any injury reports, but anything early on that you're saying, hey, man, if I can get a nice number on this, this is something I'm going to fire on.
So as of right now, we've been talking about the Atlas a lot with that Archers matchup. I'm going to stay away from that game, I think, entirely this week, just because I already have that separate action on my Atlas future. I don't think that this game necessarily is going to make or break that future because they're going to make the playoffs, but it would be nice to see them at least put up a very strong performance, win or lose against the Archers. I think the win would be incredible and would turn a lot of heads and would definitely have us talking about that next week on the show. However, if they lose, they lost to the best team in the league. I just want to know that they competed with them. On the other hand, a lot of people don't like to lay juice. And the Snakes at minus 160, I think, is a very good bet. I mean, risking 1.6 units, 3.2 units to win 2 units, I think that's about as surefire as it gets on the board, and that's why they're one of the biggest favorites of the week. I just think that this matchup is a team that the Whip Snakes, they're playing very good lacrosse right now. We saw them get that win late Sunday night. Obviously, I hit that pick, so I'm high on them. But this is a Chrome team that, gosh, could they be any more down in the dumps than they are right now, scoring single-digit goals? They could have stolen one against the Atlas, to be completely honest. They failed on that. They're about as low as it gets right now. So I hate to be that guy that lays a ton of juice and gives out picks that people feel uncomfortable betting. But minus 160, it's not minus 260. So I'm going to go with the Whip Snakes on the money line.
Yeah, and honestly, then you take the points out of it because betting the 1.5 underdogs we've talked about before, it's like a 65% trend over the last 3 seasons if you just blindly take the dogs.
Right.
So on those first 2 games,
Really?
Lloyd, for
Wow.
you, I know you, like me, are like a live better. I love getting the value that you can potentially get on these live games. I know for certain that the Archers and Atlas game will have a live line up on it. Any of the nationally televised games will have live lines either on Caesar Sportsbook or FanDuel. Sometimes all 3 of them, they go across all 3.
Yeah.
So as far as live betting, I know you're getting down that way. But anything that on Tuesday here is making you perk your ears up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we can go straight to that Archers Atlas game. That's going to be a very good game, man. I think
Hell yeah.
kind of like Brenny said. I mean, the Atlas are kind of slowly turning it around a little bit, and you got the Archers who have been the kind of the best team all season, but they just had a tough matchup with the Water Dogs, man. So you could kind of look in like, it's possible for them to lose, right? So I mean, a lot of guys are out here kind of talking probably like, okay, well, this is the best team, and now you got the Atlas are 2-4, but like Brenny said, he's got the future, and they could possibly really turn this thing around. And this is actually probably a really big momentum game for the Atlas this weekend, especially especially to turn it up as we get closer to playoff season. So I do like the +1.5 in that game. The Archers could be a little tired. 19-18 battle. The Atlas got away with the win. So did them. Both teams coming off big wins. And here we go now into a 3 p.m. game that's going to be absolutely star-studded. There's going to be a lot of people watching it, and they're going to want to put on a show. So I do really actually like the Atlas at that +1.5 at that -110.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I love that +1.5. I think it's going to be a tight game. I think Atlas could win outright on the money line, finally get some momentum rolling. I think the Archers, like, what do they have to lose? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
they could lose this game, but then they get Chrome next week. We ran down the schedule. They don't have to play any of these other top teams. So, I just don't know if it seems as important of a game for the Archers as it does at the Atlas. Like, I think this could be a potential turning point for the Atlas. Whenever I can get a team with added motivation, getting points, forget about it. I'm with you guys. And also, a lot of people might just be like looking at this as like an auto overplay. Sitting at 25.5. I get that, both of these teams have been lighting it up. Nobody wants to bet unders. However, when you look at this matchup, Archers Atlas since 2021, all 3 games have gone under, and all 3 of them were lined at 25.5. We had 24 in 2021, 19 in 2022, 23 in 2022. So sometimes when really good offenses face off against each other, they almost feel like, oh, I want to slow down the other team. Maybe possessions matter a little bit more. And also, if you just look year over year at what these teams do, when the games are lined at 25.5 or higher, the Archers are 4-0 to the under, and Atlas at games lined 25.5 are 7-2 to the under. So I know it's crazy to me to say, but last weekend's games were also indoors. I think that has a little bit to do with all the goals that you saw. You're out in Baltimore. That turf gets a little bit hot. This might be the contrarian, like, take your fucking Tums and be sick to your stomach. But 25.5, I think I'm playing under, guys. Like, am I that crazy to do that?
I don't think you're crazy because you're a numbers guy, newbie, and you're dialed in with the 65%, the underdogs outright blindly, and all that stuff is actually extremely helpful, obviously, because bet the numbers, you're probably going to win over time. However, you looked at the Atlas to start the year, one of the most talented teams offensively in the league, obviously the number 1 pick too. So they had all the firepower coming in. Now you take the best team in the league, the Archers, Mac O'Keefe, Connor Fields, the list goes on. For me personally, this may be why I'm a sucker in PLL betting this year. I just hate taking an under when there's that much talent on the field.
True.
Because the ceiling is the clouds. You know what I mean? Especially in a hot atmosphere. I think that the harder thing to do is to play defense there. And these guys with their sticks, I mean, they just whip the ball around, bang, 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 goal. I could see this being another high-scoring game, but it goes against the numbers. So is it due for an over? I see you in the chat, Gucci. I hope so, because that might be a new play. Maybe me and you, newbie, can go kind of a little pick 'em ourselves. You take under, I'll take over.
I like it. I like it.
I love that.
Lloyd, what should the penalty be? Or are we just going money straight head to head on 25.5? Big free bet.
Ooh, 25.5, man. I don't know. How about this? If you guys want to do that, I forget how much they are, but if we have a chance, I know, Brenny, you're an Atlas guy, right?
I am.
Okay. Newbie, do you have a team?
Whoever makes me money that week is my favorite team. But
Whoever
if I had to pick, honestly, it's fucking embarrassing to say. I would say Chrome. One of the dudes from my hometown is on that team. So I think the jerseys are just drip city. So I would say Chrome, though it's embarrassing to say.
So how about something Chrome Atlas related? So whether it's a jersey or maybe it's a stick or whatever the case is, we can get a little bet there. Brennan gets an Atlas jersey, Newbie gets a Chrome jersey, and we can go winner take all.
I like it.
I like it a lot.
I love it.
All right, 25.5. Another thing that you could do, and again, it goes like against what I'm saying. We're going to have a live line in this game. If you think it's going to start scoring, quickly, you could also go for the forbidden middle. You could bet the over 25.5. And then let's say there's 8 goals to start off. We saw totals get as high as 40 last weekend. So you could swoop in on that under 40, have almost, 15 points of straddle and cash both of your bets. But for the purposes of the show, I'm going to be the martyr. I'm marching to the counter under 25.5. And Brenny, let me know what size you are.
All right.
I love it. I love it.
The thing is, though, at least is it so these games are, is it Saturday, Sunday again this week?
Yeah, so it's going to be Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern on ABC. Maybe we'll have to do a live sweat.
I'm in Cali right now. I'm on vacation. The one thing that's good for me in this is that
it starts at noon.
It's the weekend. It does start at noon. I love the times for these specific standard games. But at least I will be stretched out, probably on the beach, watching this on my phone on ABC, just chilling, watching this master class of lacrosse. When you take an under newbie in the PLL with the
it's the worst thing ever. It's the worst thing ever.
You're just sitting there like, stop. I mean, it's the fastest
I'm a sick
game on
pup.
TV for a reason. So
I'm a sick pup.
It's also the fucking way that they score their goals, man. They score their goals in crazy ways. They have a lot of excitement when they score too. So it's all thrill, you know.
Yeah, except for newbie.
I'm a sick pup. Yeah, I'm the dick who's always like, no, I want the goalies to shine out. So, well, under 25.5. And Brenny, what you're like around like San Diego. You're like an hour from me where I'm staying. So maybe I'll just drive my ass down. We watch on the beach together, and then and then just completely sweat this shit out. I'll reach out to you. We'll figure it out. I ain't got nothing going on this week.
Boys, I'm coming. If we're doing that, I'm flying out.
Yeah, come to San Diego.
I'm flying out. I'm coming out. I'll take a PJ. I'll be right there.
We'll send the Venmo request to our guy Wes. We'll make sure that we get ourselves taken care of. Coop, if you're listening, get these dudes out to the West Coast. All right, we belabored the point long enough on these two games, so I'm going under head-to-head against my man Brenny. We got a little gentleman's wager on this Archers and Atlas team. He looks towards the over 25.5. We also all are liking a potential play on the Atlas at that 1.5, and on my man Brandy looking at the Whipsnakes minus 160. Redwoods Chaos, also a game that I am intrigued by. Can the Redwoods finally get out of their own way? These teams have played 5 times since 2021, and also now since it's later in the season, we're starting to see these teams play for the second time around. When these teams played earlier this season, it was on July 9th. Redwoods were 1.5-point dogs. They got the win outright. Any of the games that Redwoods have won, it's been as 1.5-point dogs winning outright. That's also the only time that they were ever underdogs against Chaos. That was also the game people remember that Blaze Reardon was announced out right before the game started, the goalie for Chaos. They're 1.5-point dogs here again. I don't know if I can do it. I think, having Blaze Reardon back, how bad the Redwoods have looked offensively, I think that game's a sheer pass for me. And then we got Water Dogs and Cannons plus 1.5 for the Water Dogs. You have to play minus 160 for that. The money line both ways are minus 115. So the Cannons, despite being basically tied in the standings outside of the scoring differential, the Cannons are now favorites in this game. The marketplace is no longer undervaluing the Cannons. They believe that they are for real. I don't know. This could be a potential sell high spot on the Cannons. When you see those two games, anything crazy jumping out to you, Lloyd, or are you waiting until we see some injury reports?
Yeah, you obviously need to wait to see kind of what's out there with the injuries. But I love the way that Blaze played, especially against the Whipsnakes. Obviously, when he was back, and the Chaos, man. This was my first time really watching them fully play, and they got a lot of exciting guys.
Canadians. Canadian style.
That Kyle Jackson kid, he is unbelievable, man. The way that they're just a lot of shifty guys. And their defense, they got some big guys too, man. I'm really sitting there like, dude, these guys are like trying to get past these guys is not easy. And obviously I know that I said this in my video, that the Chaos are the first team I ever betted on. So I won't ever bet against them. So in that case, so I will be going Chaos this weekend, 110%.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. What about you, Brenny? You like anything in that game, or are you looking towards this other game of the weekend, Water Dogs Cannons?
I think it's a pretty ugly game, just in my opinion, because you can look at the odds, like you said, and say the odds makers, Vegas, whatever you want to call it, is finally respecting the Chaos, giving them this minus 125 price. However, I'm seeing it as they just don't respect the Redwoods whatsoever, and I really don't think they should. This is a 500 Redwoods team with a minus 10 goal differential. Excuse me, minus 13 goal differential. So they've gotten away with some couple squeaky wins. Their defense playing well. With the offense looking as bad as it did last week, I think that it's either chaos or you don't bet it. In my opinion, though, I think I'll be staying away from that game.
Yeah, yeah. And guys, as far as this Water Dogs and Cannons games goes, I was just running the numbers here. This is the first time that they're going to be facing off this week. But the underdogs, so they played 4 times since 2021, 2 times in 2 times in 2021, 2 times in 2022. Every single game, the underdog getting the 1.5 has covered the spread. Water Dogs were dogs against the Cannons. One time they covered the spread. They won that game outright 19-7. So a little historical data. The underdog in that matchup, probably why we're seeing the Water Dogs minus 160 plus 1.5. That's a sheer stay away game for me.
Wow.
I'm not betting anything either way there. Like no way for me on that one.
I won't be touching that one either.
Yeah, and then in this Redwoods and Chaos matchup, same kind of thing that Brenny was saying. Like, could the Redwoods bounce back? Sure, they could, but like I mentioned, having Blaze Reardon back in cage, probably the Redwoods don't beat them if he wasn't. So probably a little bit of mini revenge built in there for the Chaos. And Chaos also coming off the game that they probably should have won. Redwoods just really not being able to find their way at all. So, I don't think I have any actionable plays yet for Sunday, but I do have some player props that I'll be eyeing once those come out. So, full slate rundown here, boys. You guys got anything else before we get the great folks out of here?
Yeah, man. I think I actually would like to say a little bit about this Water Dogs Cannon game just real quick. I mean, because you got the Cannons beat the Redwoods this past weekend. Obviously, it was kind of in dominant fashion. And then you got the Water Dogs just played the Archers, played them really well, man. Really, really well. I mean, between the turnovers, the turnover differential, shots on goal, percentage of saves. I mean, it was a really, really tight game. So I do like kind of where the Water Dogs could be in this matchup with the Cannons. The Cannons, kind of just ran through the Redwoods, kind of could be a little kind of a lackluster letdown spot for them coming into this game for the Water Dogs, who just played the best team in the PLL and just hung around and played a really, really solid game and had a chance to win that game, by the way, too. So, I mean, you can look at that. There's some value right there. I know you said the dog in that game usually covers. So I mean, even if it's juice, I know it's minus 160 or whatever it is, but I don't hate that play at all whatsoever.
Branny?
Yeah. I think that it would be criminal to not touch up on that game because, in my opinion, that's the game of the week. These are the 2 runner-up favorites in the Premier Lacrosse League when it comes down to odds to win the championship come late September. And it's a super interesting matchup, too, because, Newbie, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. The Cannons, they had an ugly roster coming in the year. Everyone thought they would be under 2.5 wins, under 1.5 wins, and they caught fire. The thing about this team is the stick is the great equalizer. They move the ball better than anyone in the league. They play together. They don't have dominant players that are getting the high. I mean, that you don't see too many Cannons highlights that you see with the Archers, Atlas, etc., Chaos even. But I would say that it's going to be 2 teams that play very different successful play styles. We know that the Water Dogs can literally just pound you with offense, whichever guy wants to be hot in that attack group that each day. The Cannons, they're going to play together, so you never really know who's going to be scoring, but the points are going to be there well-rounded because they move the ball like no one's business. In my opinion, to send you guys off with, that is the game to watch because we know what the Sunday night cap-off of the week was last week. Came down to a Will Manny 8-second left finisher, gut shot for Lloyd. Winner for me. We'll see what it is this week, but it's going to be a really good game no matter what it is.
Yeah, and this is one I made the contrarian play, the under in the Archers and Atlas game. You couldn't make me bet the fucking under in this game with anybody else's money. Like, dude, there is no, I think this one is going to fly over the 25.5. So I guess if there was a play for me, I think that final game of the weekend, there's going to be some fireworks in that one. Water Dogs, Cannons, 2 of the highest scoring teams in the league consistently week in and week out. And I also think, the defensive style that they do, and do we have Dylan Ward back in cage? That maybe would give me pause if the Water Dogs have Dylan Ward back in cage, because anytime that he's in there, it's always going to be a little bit tougher to get past them. But as it's sitting today on a Tuesday, only having to lay minus 105 for the over, 25.5 looking real nice in that one. I'm not buying you 2 fucking jerseys this weekend, Brenny. I'm not going under in that game too. I can't do it.
That's it.
I
Only
can't do it.
one, V-Dog.
I can't do it. Just one.
It's gonna be a good slate. I think that's for sure.
Absolutely. I think honestly, this is probably the best, and I feel like it's because playoffs are starting to come into form. This is the best chunk of games that we've had. It's very fitting that at Homewood we have two, of the four top teams or four of the top few teams all facing off against each other. Lloyd, it was an absolute pleasure, my guy, having you on here, dog.
Well, I mean, this was absolutely amazing, man, and I can't wait to get back on. I'm sure that I hope I can get back on, or if we can do this every single week, man. But I'm going to really start paying attention now, man. I mean, last week was my first kind of week. I really only got to watch 2 games, so I'm really excited, man, for this weekend to even get the knowledge that you guys would share with me, and me just kind of doing some of my own research and starting to learn about the players and really get into the league, man. It is a fun league. It is exciting. It's youthful. And these games this week, and I'm super excited for it, man. A lot of playoff implications here, and it's going to be a hell of a PLO week, and I'll tell you that.
Absolutely, my guy. I could not agree more. And we'll see how Rossi's feeling if Atlas end up actually taking down the Archers. She's going to be fucking insufferable when we get her back on the show.
That's right.
So Brenny, hey, maybe I'll see you this weekend. We go head to head here on this 25.5, but the jersey bet is on. One of us is getting a jersey.
There we go. And I'll see you guys on the beach tomorrow, right, Brenny?
Let's go. Let's go.
That's right.
Oh, man. Absolutely love it. That's Lloyd, Brenny Locks. I'm Newbie Talks. This has been Net Profits with SoBet. Make sure you drop us a follow, and we'll see you next week.